this one, I'll call the meeting to order unless Bill wants to take over. You want to take over?
Nope, I'm happy with you.
Okay. First thing let's do is stand and say the pledge, please.
Looks like we got a quorum.
They were all there.
I pledge
allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
All right, so how we've been doing this previously, we haven't had a joint session for quite a while, but we'll just start over here and go around the room and introduce yourself if you would, and we'll go from there.
Sure. Robert Medoff, Philipsburg Town Attorney.
Daniel Reddish, Philipsburg Mayor.
Blaine Bradshaw, County Attorney.
Mike Cahill, Executive Assistant to the Commissioner.
Bill Slaughter, County Commissioner.
Earl Hoot, the Drummond City Councilman.
Jana McGill, Drummond Town Attorney.
Ray McCall, Drummond Councilman.
Gail Lieber, Mayor of Drummond.
Carrie McClure, Town of Drummond.
John Johnson, Town of Philipsburg, Councilperson.
Carl Sundstrom, Councilperson, Philipsburg.
Dan Villa, just here.
Lisa Villa, resident.
Chuck Hinkle.
Oh.
Dick Motta.
Lena Gagliano, Philipsburg.
Nicole Nelch, Philipsburg Town Council.
Susie Brown, Drummond.
Sue Peterson, Drummond.
Nicole, do you want to come up here? We'll get you a chair. I don't think your attorney will mind.
One's left. I don't.
Oh, there's one right over there. So,
Peterson's back.
economic development, we can go and talk about that if you'd like. Usually they're kind of within the reports, so that would probably be the better way to do it. So I guess we'll have Mr. Slaughter, if you would like to give an update on what you have down there, that'd be great.
Sure. You know, every once in a while, somebody will waltz in and say, hey, we're gonna start a business, or we're going to open a mine, or we're gonna have a temporary trucking operation. And usually they wanna know if in fact, you know, they have to pay a fee or something for using a county road. What we do is we're all three of us are very adamant about the fact that, you know, we want to encourage economic development. Certainly this county has had struggles in both ends. The latest one was a group that came in and wants to develop the old Golden Jubilee mine up past the Gables and up in that country. And it is a county road up in Mike Fox. Remember the name of that road?
Red Line.
Red Line, I'm sorry. Fox, I'm sorry. But, so he met with us. We had spent a lot of time with them about maintenance of the roadway. They're gonna provide the maintenance. They are gonna truck at least 2 hauls a day, so there'll be 4 trucks in and out a day. It's a tunnel. They're pretty excited about, they did a drilling project the last few years, and they want to go develop what they found. They're gonna hire 50 employees, they said. And we talked to them about how tough it is to rent, and they said, yep, that's what they want, to try to get locals if they can. And we're excited about that. So they need a trucking company, and they're gonna try to hire that local as well. And they'll make 2 trips, and they're going to Golden Sunlight to Middlemore. So I suspect that he'll be in and out with questions, and we'll do what we can to accommodate him. We're gonna have Paul go up and take a look. I think he's already been up and looked at what signage or safety, you know, the situation we have up there, and what we need to make it safe if they're gonna have a lot more traffic. Probably get the sheriff involved in that as well.
So has any of these I don't remember the bill that was, they were looking at to put restrictions on any of the mining.
There is some talk, and I haven't seen it, Gail, but I was in a Mako meeting, and it looks like they're gonna try to put on a ballot, and it's really strong language, basically there won't be any mining in Montana. And Mako's doing its best to just fight it before it ever gets on the ballot. And they have to get a number of signatures, because it's a statewide issue, and I don't even know what they are, but we'll find out. As soon as we get a draft of it, I think it's something we definitely need to get in the paper, have people take a look at it. I mean, it's, from what I hear, it's absolutely devastating, but I haven't seen a copy of it. One other thing we've been trying to do is we've got a real active airport board, we're excited to tell you. We've done some little things like, make sure all the safety equipment's back up and running, they've cleaned things up, we've required our renters to clean up. The first and worst renter was us, right? We had probably the worst county-owned building out there, which we refurbished, and looks really nice now. So we're proud of at least our existence at the airport. Of course, it needs about somewhere around $200,000 refinishing of the runway. And interestingly enough, under economic development, Rock Creek Ranch, who flies a lot of people to Missoula, and then you see their cars back and forth. It's a long trip in the winter. And what they'd like to do is fly right to Philipsburg, of course. You'd have to land at King Air, and there's enough airfield to do that. It's probably not wide enough, it's long enough. So we're looking at that, and they actually hired a transportation group. I think it's a team of lawyers to work with us. We said, okay, I mean, we're not paying for this, and they said, no. They're looking into grants, I'm sure. And Homeland Security announced not too many days ago that there may be some rural airport grants available again. So we might have, got some people looking into this just in time. The airport down here in Drummond, it's a grass field. We replanted it 2 years ago, and it's come back really good. Right now, we're just using county maintenance to go out and keep it in shape. They are landing planes, and they did fix some safety equipment there as well. So those are the things I could think of, Carol.
Does the airport out here get used? How much does it?
Yeah, it does a lot of crop spraying, ag use, okay? During emergencies, of course, they land, if they can't land a helicopter, they land fixed wing, and they can fly out there in an emergency. Of course, in the wintertime, it's pretty much not used, of course. We don't plow, we're not asked to, and, it's, like I said, it's a dirt field. But, it is, yeah, they use it.
I had a question, if I might. You referenced an airport board, did I hear that
Yeah.
correctly? And how many members does that have?
I think right now they're searching for members again. They're down to about, 3 or 4? Four, they're down to 4.
When they're up to full operational strength, what does it constitute? Is it
5 or 6, I
5
think.
or 6?
Yeah.
And are they appointments or are those
Yes.
elected positions?
No, they're appointments.
Okay.
Yeah.
And the county oversees the board, or?
Yes.
I see.
It's an advisory board of the county commissioners.
I see.
All these are aviation guys. Nobody on the board right now has aviation expertise, so we rely on them. Well, Mike does a little bit.
Are there lengths to their terms?
Yes, we reappoint every, how many years now? 3 years, so 3-year terms, yeah.
Thank you.
Yeah, so anybody's interested, we'd love to have you serve on the board. They recently were able to get a vehicle. It was always a problem. There were people who liked to come to Philipsburg, fly in for the day, but there was no way to get from the airport to downtown. And now they have a vehicle that, pilots have a way of finding out how to get into it. It's one of their codes on the radio. Anyway, they kind of expect it, and they're able to load the family and run into town. So it's kind of neat.
How about you? Yeah, want to talk some economic development, you wanna wait?
Yeah, we can wait.
Okay, Drummond's economic development, well, let's see, our store closed. So it's not really developing. You know, I hope that that comes back in a couple of years. Montana Limestone Resource, talked with Tim Hugh, not too long ago, and, they're still going forward. I asked them about the mine, you know, the restrictions on it. They think they'll be okay. So, you know, that's going forward. They're still talking about trucking all the way to Butte. Their biggest concern is coming onto Highway 1, the approach onto the highway, so we'll look down the road further to that. Council, you guys got anything?
Yeah, my brother-in-law was in last night. He's hauling drilling equipment to Peaburg for Cominco. What's going on there?
I don't know.
I have no idea, yeah.
Huh. Yeah, it was news to me.
So like to Black Pine, or was it?
For Cominco, phosphate.
Are you referring to Rio Tinto? They're doing exploratory drilling off
Maybe.
Smart Creek?
That might be.
I bet that's
Smart,
what it is, yeah.
Yeah, that's probably what that is. They're underway, I believe they're in their third season of doing that. They have 3 test drilling sites underway, and they're now into a 90-day period of time where they'll be drilling there. They had a meeting about 3 weeks ago in Hall, a public outreach meeting. I would assume that's probably, they're renting a small place in Philipsburg also to do some storage, and then to sort of organize their sampling and so forth. So that sort of dovetails into activity with what's going on. And I would say too that I've noticed a tremendous amount of machinery and activity lately, and there's a lot of hauling going around of heavy equipment. Part of it obviously is we're entering the building season and so that activity is increasing. The real estate activity seems to be increasing. That seems to be hot right now. We're getting a lot of that activity. We have a new creamery, ice cream store, that's just getting underway. The regular businesses are getting into their summer mode and they're seeing the activity is increasing. That seems to be it. And of course, we're always concerned about what was mentioned a minute ago in terms of housing is a big deal right now. So again, the real estate's pretty hot. So, and I'm personally stoked that we're getting into some more resource type jobs. Seem to be increasing a little bit. We're getting a little more, appear to be getting a little more access to our resource. This is just a cursory observation from me, seeing the activity. So that's a good sign. And we'll see what happens with the fire season. So,
Right,
yeah.
yeah. Okay, what'd you have, John?
Well, when you brought up the lime quarry that they're talking about in access on the Highway 1, I looked at that a while back when they brought it up a couple years ago there, or whatever it's been. And I thought that you should be able to come straight through the pie-shaped end of that state lot and come square into Highway 1. And then normally what you can do is get them, if they get that going, get them to put in a turning lane and a bypass lane. But there's a spot there where you could come straight. You just have to somehow get that piece of property from the state.
Yeah, I think they're in negotiations or talking with, and I'm sure that's, you know, they got, what, close to 4 million into that up there now, you know, so. Okay,
What sort of trucks are they gonna use?
oh, I would say
Belly dumps,
belly
side
dumps.
dumps?
Yeah, I would assume so. I don't know for sure, but I would assume so. Okay, the update, Mr. Slaughter?
So we've been spending a lot of time, of course, on Georgetown Lake Dam. FERC, our federal partner's pretty tough, and asked him when I was new about you know, what that's all about, but apparently anytime you make power on a dam, they're there to make sure that, you know, you follow all our safety. And it's an earthen dam, an old one. So we started, almost 3 years ago, and actually picked up from other commissions' recommendations to do some things. The first project that's gonna happen this year is a new gate. There's a leaking gate that's in there in the center of the dam now. That's why you always see that water going down through the bottom of the dam. It's 130 years old, something like that. And it's a big valve, and it's going to be replaced with a more modern setup, safer setup. That's one of the more obvious things. And then one of the less obvious things, after the California flood, where they lost a spillway, all of a sudden their focus, FERC's focus was spillways. So they came back and did a complete examination of the spillway last summer. And they found some areas that they are gonna require us to fix. So we're in the middle of doing the engineering on that. And we were able to get, for the purchase of the gate valves, a grant, $125,000 grant that is gonna pay for the lion's share of that. And then we've applied for another grant for the spillway. But in addition to that, if you notice the upstream side of the dam where the facing comes down, you'll see where it sort of sits on a ledge, sticks out about that far, the full length of the dam, about that thick. And it's kind of crumbling. And the question was, is that holding up the facing? And if it is, it's deteriorating. And the answer is no, it's not. The facing's actually tied back through the dam to the other side, but it does hold material between the facing and the bottom of that ledge. And if it deteriorated, what you'd lose is all your material would fall into the front upstream side of the dam. So it's pretty significant. And we had a lot of work to figure out exactly, find the old as-builts, and engineering firm out of Helena's working with Great West. And we have, by the way, a full-time engineer and a full-time dust, but we've hired an engineer, so it's the same guy that is gonna be the dam engineer, which has made FERC very happy, and we've learned a lot. So that job requires dewatering, a crane, a whole bunch of stuff, about $400,000. And the question is, do you do it in two pieces? One end's actually deteriorated a little more than the other. And the commission's had a couple discussions about probably we would have to borrow money from our PILT and just do the thing at one time, because if you break it up into two construction seasons, it's gonna cost about an extra $150,000, because you gotta mobilize all that, and you gotta dewater twice. So we're leaning towards just putting it out for bid and doing it, just fixing it. I mean, it is a dam, it's important. It's not like something, you know, a county road that needs to be rebuilt. It's a public safety issue. It isn't getting better. And then once we had all three of these projects done, we'd be pretty good shape for years and years on that project. Now remember, we do make power. So there's a fund, I looked the other day, about $348,000 in that fund. Then I also looked at, we do have some money left over from the Montana Power purchase or exchange to Granite County. When I talked about borrowing from PILT, what the county commissioners would do is whatever you don't have money in funds to pay for, or we would take out a PILT, payment in lieu of tax money, and we would make up the difference. But we would pay it back every year or every month with the power generation money. Make sense? So in this county, you gotta remember the payment in lieu of tax dollars, it's about $1.3 million right now, and we're expecting about another $230,000 to $60,000 this year in payment in lieu of taxes. That sounds like a lot of money, but it's not if it's a rainy day fund. Okay, if you had an emergency, if you had a law enforcement emergency, a public safety, a natural disaster, it really would go pretty quickly. So it's gonna be my recommendation that whatever dollars come out of PILT, that there's a maximum number of dollars that stay there, and that we pay it back as quickly as we can. Okay. So the dam activity is one of the bigger things that we've been doing. As far as public safety goes, we're really happy with Rick Day's work. The other day, he was able to get Homeland Security monies and put a generator in the high school. Rick's a good grant writer. He's well thought of around the state, and he knows where the money is. So he is your public disaster emergency service officer. Make sure you use him. He's great. He and the sheriff have teamed up, and they were able to modernize our mobile data. And our mobile data is mobile data in is computers and police cars, okay? But basically, they're gonna see the same thing the 911 dispatcher does. And that's important in a rural county because we have one dispatcher. They can get overwhelmed. Officers can do many things miles and miles away. They don't have to run back up to do reports, for example, so it should save tons of money. They ought to be able to query people more in depth, are you on probation, are you in parole? They have the county mapping system there, so if there's an emergency down here, Gail, once you have a police car pull up, now you basically have a command post, okay, with all the information you would have if they're gonna be sitting at the jail, okay, the dispatch center. So we wanna make sure, your fire guys will be trained and know what's in there so that they can just ask law enforcement to show up and.
So any emergency, ambulance also?
Yep, absolutely, ambulance, police, fire, any issues like that, they just have way more information at their fingertips. Of course, it's an officer safety issue, which is a very big deal. They're all up and running. They're going through the glitches. You might expect it's pretty high tech, but they're gonna, Sheriff Dunferson gave me a little, was showing me kind of how things are working in his car, and they'll just take one module at a time and learn it and load it and learn it and load it until they're all loaded. Now, this does have the capability of anything the state does. We'll just download it almost instantly to us, so that it's going to really help us with having the latest information. We're pretty proud of that. Just a lot of other things going on. We're probably going to put a roof on the courthouse this year. We went up, actually we went a couple of years ago, and we did a patch last year to get us through the winter so that we could evaluate what we had to do. We've had several people come and look at it, and it's really sophisticated up there. It's an old building with brick walls, and then flat roof. But we have a couple challenges, and one, of course, is to seal it up to protect the old building. The other challenge, probably more important challenge, or as important certainly, is to protect the integrity of the building so that it's a historical building, and we want it to maintain the way it looks is the way it's going to look. Mike, did you have any other things on the roof?
No.
So is that gonna be this year?
Yeah, it's going to be this year. We don't have any choice. It's like any building, the most important thing is you better take care of the roof or you're not gonna have a building. We did the jail last year, and it went really well. We're real happy with that. Dunferson said as long as he's been a deputy sheriff, they've been fighting with water in the jail, and that's fixed now. So we're happy about that.
So when's that gonna go out to bid?
The jail is already done, but
Right.
the courthouse, you'll see stuff going on. We actually had one guy bid the initial work. That's the only guy that we had bid it. And
When did that go out?
Well, it doesn't have to go out because it's under $80,000.
I guess I would just ask the commission to consider putting it out. I know you don't have to, but I would ask that, you know,
Well, we did a lot of inquiries, Gail, about who could even do it. And if there's 2 or 3 of those guys in Missoula, we ought to have, you know, make sure they know about it. So, I mean, certainly we can put it in the paper, that's easy enough, that's honest enough to ask it. But more importantly, I think, we gotta get to the right people and say, well, you know, 'cause we don't want somebody up there that isn't qualified to do this, okay?
sure.
Yeah, so, that's kinda how we've been doing it.
Yeah, if you just put that in your specs, I would assume that within the bid, you're gonna filter out the people that don't have the historical capability of doing it, because it is, the historical stuff is.
Yeah, it's important.
Do you have to work through the state on the historical aspect of it?
Well, not any longer, like for example, the jail is on in the registry, but at one time you could actually get money, but you can't anymore, and they can't require us, but what we did is years ago, the previous commissions had an architect that is well aware of, you know, what the specs are or what they need to be, so we inquired with him. Now, here's the deal, we didn't hire the architect again, you know, we already had him, we'd already paid for him.
Right.
So what we did is went back and researched and found what we paid for, and, yeah, the old historical sign in front, that you gotta stick to that. I think you do just because it's the right thing to do, but, they're not gonna give you any money if you do or don't, you know, see what I'm saying? They can't swing a big stick because they don't have any power anymore, make sense?
Comment, I think.
Yeah,
In what Gail was saying, putting it out, I just have a question. Was it on your agenda for review and decision?
yeah.
It was.
And, yeah, and we had, one of the questions we had to ask Susie is, you know, I mean, we're not experts, we go up there, look
Yeah.
around, but we actually had to have somebody with that kind of expertise in those old buildings to point out what we needed, does that make sense? And that's
Okay.
kind of where the stage we're at right now.
Okay, so you
We
have.
did do
you haven't
a
hired a
patch
contractor.
of the dome last year just to protect it for the winter, okay? And a bigger issue is coming, yeah.
Thank you.
Helena?
I have 2 questions about that. The old revenue office, what's the plan for that? And are you going to do anything for the disability facilities for the disabled?
Okay, I'll take the last one first. When I came on board as a commissioner, that was kind of my question, is that how do we get disabled people to district court? And what previous commissions did, and I think wisely, is they started a building fund that, with the idea of building an elevator, and there's money there. And every year we put money aside to do that. In the meantime, the district judge has been really good about either, if there's somebody disabled, it either holds it in another location, okay? But, you know, I think we're facing, I think Elena's point is well taken, we're facing the point where we can't do that much longer. But there is a plan, thanks Susie for looking it forward, and they put money aside for an elevator. It'd have to be engineered, and exactly where you put the elevator, you know, what side of the building and all that. The second question has to do with, you remember we're on the main floor where revenue was, it's a pretty good sized open building. I've always been concerned about, even before I was commissioner, about the safety of the justice court judge. She's backed up against the wall, she can't get out. Something goes bad, she's in a really bad spot, and nobody's gonna hear it, and it's gonna be really ugly. The sheriff and I've talked about it several occasions. Recently, we had a builder, and who else was there? The judge, commissioners, others went in to see what we would have to do to remodel the upstairs revenue office for the justice court. I think it's actually a very simple fix, simpler than I thought. Don't know exactly how much it would cost yet. We haven't got that estimate back. The judge, I think, now understands and wants to move upstairs if she can.
Do you have any threats against her? I'm not aware of any threats, and
Yeah, she said.
you're gonna have the same problem with the disabled.
Yeah.
They can go in there.
No, we are, but I don't think, the only way to solve that is, you know, like you said, being able to have access through an elevator, really.
And then there's the hearing impaired also, that's part of it.
Yeah, it's you know, adapting an old courthouse, has its challenges, and that's probably the biggest one we're facing. But the judge, I think, will move up. I can't give you a timetable, it depends on what the costs are of actually doing that.
You're talking about the Flint Creek Dam being repaired. We received, or the county received approximately $900,000 from Montana Power. They've also received $55,000 to $70,000 from Hydrodynamics as their share of the electric distribution. So that's approximately $1.4 million. You're saying now that you are spending approximately $1.4 million on the repairs of this dam?
No. The Montana Power did give them, when the dam turns over years and years ago, about $1 million with it. There's not that much left in that fund, okay? They've spent it over the years for maintenance of the dam, which that was what it was for. There's still some of that fund, and Mike, you got any idea? Okay. There's some money left there. The power generation, Dick, actually runs around $6,000 to $8,000 a month, depending on how much power we produce, depending on how much water we have going through the pipe. So that's a month. Then we get credit for, that's 10% of the total amount that Hydrodynamics is collecting, and the 90% goes toward the purchase of the generation equipment. And down the road here, and I looked, is it 18 years? About 18 years from now, we'll own the whole thing. And no, I don't want to be a commissioner when we're collecting $80,000 a month. But right now, it's a tenth of that, so it'd be $8,000 a month.
Yeah.
Say about, and then, so we can use that money for maintenance or, you know, of the dam, and that's what that is for. That's going into a fund that's been saved. Once again, previous commissioners, I think this was a really good idea. They knew there were gonna be maintenance costs, so they started saving up dollars in both those funds to do that.
Yeah,
And then we're gonna try to get grants on, and we have been real successful on grant monies to fix those items.
Well, you're obviously running out of money. I guess to get to the basic question is, are you going to be able to get grants every year in order to subsidize this, or are you going to be looking at the taxpayer paying for this?
Well, I disagree with your premise. We're not running out of money. There's plenty of money to do both those projects. We're not taking on projects we can't pay for. Secondly, yes, we've been very successful of getting grants, which takes, you know, the biggest sting out of the costs of the individual projects that we're able to do, okay? The question is, you know, do we wanna wait like 2 or 3 years on the facing wall? That would be the biggest one, it's about $400,000, and have it continue to deteriorate. The discussions, and we haven't made a final decision or anything, so far are headed towards no, it's a public safety, it's a dam integrity, it's a issue we just wanna fix. And do we have the money to do it? Yes, we do. Where do we take the money? And then how quickly do we pay it back? Those are all good questions, Dick. But we do have the money to do it.
Could you tell me again what the source of the money is?
Sure. The savings account from the hydro electric monthly,
That's totally dissipated now, right?
No.
No, it's gaining every month. Thank God. We're making power. The second source of funds you mentioned, and that was the original dollars for maintenance that the county received when they took over the dam. And the third source of funds would be the grant money, because we'll apply for grant money too, and, you know, how successful we've been successful, so we'll just have to see. And then the fourth source of funds would be payment in lieu of tax money that's sitting in the county right now, that we have, okay?
What do you mean by the payment of the tax money?
Payment in lieu of taxes are,
Oh.
for all the federal lands that are in Granite County, every year we get a payment from the federal government in lieu of being able to tax those properties. We can't tax them because they're federal grounds. So, every year, we kind of bite our fingers to see if we're gonna get it, but Congress gives Montana, and we get a big chunk of payment in lieu of taxes. Okay, it's about, what, 230,000, something like that a year. And even back when I was sheriff in Gallatin there, the commissioners worried about it, you know, but that was 40 years ago. We got it every year, so it's fairly
Yeah.
dependable.
But the PILT funds aren't supposed to be directed toward the operation of the dam, are
They
they?
can be, yeah.
They can be,
Yeah,
but they're not
for
supposed
roads,
to be.
public safety, they're for infrastructure of the county. Yes, they can. That's absolutely a correct use of payment in lieu of tax dollars.
It is.
Yeah.
I have a question.
You know, and I would, you know, I think Dick brings up a good point here. I think it's important, and I'm glad there's so many people here, I think it's important that we get some input about, do you think that's a proper use of the money? Do you wanna borrow money? This is our money, we don't have to borrow money? Or do you think it's wiser to keep the rainy day fund at a higher level? I mean, that's actually a question for the commission right now. What is the minimum rainy day fund that's appropriate for this county? I don't think anybody's ever asked that question. So we're open to all kinds of discussion about that. Absolutely, come to the meetings, and if you see it on the agenda, please come and participate. Sorry.
Excuse me, because I don't have a lot of background and contextually on how this all came to be. Just a basic question, do county employees of the Public Works Department work on the dam at all?
Yes.
Are they participated and work on the dam? So
Yeah.
that this comes out of the general Public Works budget?
Yes.
Uh,
Here's the thing, there are certain things that are well within their areas of expertise. For example, not too long ago, FERC asked us to clean out a big drainage pipe, to stand up some electrical outlet and conduit that wasn't, covered, ice and stuff that broke off. There was a couple other things, like road maintenance things over the dam. They asked us to haul in a bunch of material for a dam failure. They found that earthen dams, if you had material right there on site, that you probably save the dam. And if you don't, you probably won't. And think about ours, it's on top of a mountain, right? So in the wintertime, we're probably gonna lose the dam. So we're in a process of getting the right kinds of material right at that site. That'll be done by county.
And when you refer to day, are you speaking of
FERC,
FERC?
yeah,
Just wanted to-
yeah, I'm sorry. So there's a lot of things that county employees do.
So, is the dam inspected on a yearly,
Yeah.
whatever,
The state
bi-yearly?
inspects it and so does the feds. And as a result of the inspections and working with us, Gail, that's how we were able to plan out, we don't need to do this tomorrow, but we need to do it soon. And then once in a while, they'll come back and say, well, we're gonna change your priorities. So that's how we.
Is there any plan to renegotiate the lease? You're supposed to have a 10-year lease. I understand that you have a renewal clause in there, that you can renew it for another 10 years. And then you're talking about the dam reverting back to the county at the end of 10 years? Or
The
20
dam-
years?
Okay, the dam already is the county's. The county owns Georgetown Lake Dam. What we don't own is the hydroelectric generating plant, but we're buying it.
Could you explain how you're buying it?
Yeah, we're buying it, I don't remember, it's probably 25 years, we got about 18 years left. So if it generates $80,000 a month, $8,000 goes to the county, cash, and the remainder goes to the hydro generation company out of Bozeman that is on our bill. In other words, we bought that much of the dam every year, okay? In 18 years, we'll own it.
County has a contract with Flint Creek Hydro. Pursuant to that agreement, they're contractually bound to perform the maintenance at the dam, and also at the end of that contract, the county will own the improvements.
Yeah,
That's enough.
the way it's being operated now, it really doesn't benefit Granite County.
That was a contract entered into prior to the current commissioners that the county's bound by, so there's no way to get around it.
Did you have a question, Sue?
Yeah, I'm
Yes,
sorry,
you
Sue.
said you were going to dewater the dam, I just was hoping it was in August.
No, it's actually, if you look at the upriver side of the dam, Sue, and you look down, it's like, you see the road there? Underwater, it's not very far, you can, it's actually see, okay. So, the plan from the engineer was they'll probably sandbag that whole thing across, and it's just, I don't know what it is, it's not even, probably 10 feet of water they'll lose, probably do it, you know, after irrigation and as quickly as we can. And then that's the only part of it we'll dewater. We won't dewater the lake, we won't take it, you know, they'll be watering it. Yeah, it's just dewatering so they can get to that face.
Right, just dewater
Yes, ma'am.
that little area.
Yeah.
Okay. So for Drummond, updates, I went to the commissioner, you see the PILT funds on there. I went to the commissioners. Drummond has two projects that one that we must do, which is the water tower. When we had it inspected last year, there's silt in the bottom of it, and there's some, it needs to be redone on the inside. We have a leak right now that we're trying to find. I could be in the lines, hopefully we'll find that next week. Anyway, in any case, I went to the commissioners and said, hey, can we borrow PILT monies? Well, since that time that I've been up there and chat with them, Lane had talked with.
So yeah, I did some research, and there's no statutory authority for the county to do that, so,
Right.
yeah.
So we'll go to an intercap loan to do that project, and then we want to do South Main. That is from Front Street down to the bridge, which is, you know, both projects will probably be about $270,000 to $90,000.
I would go to the state and maybe,
John, I can't even get the state to call me back.
well, call JC, but I would.
He's retired.
Oh,
He
sorry.
doesn't work there anymore.
Well,
Bill had some ideas.
but anyways, I would go to the state and say, hey, you guys really ruined our road.
Oh,
when you-"
we've done that for several years. In fact, when they did the bridges, they made a promise, and I have to say, for me, I took them at their word
Right.
and didn't get it in writing, and then they retired, those people that did it. So, had made those promises. So,
Alright.
you know, we're, but we have to do that road, so in any event, I don't know if you wanna talk about what,
Well, just the water tower. So Gail came up and, you know, we were looking for all kinds of ways to maybe work together and get this done. And, you know, we asked Blaine to look into PILT money, so you know the answer to that. But since then, we were meeting with our county disaster emergency service director again. And we said, hey, what do you think? And he goes, you know, he said, you use the water tower for fire
It is, that's it,
suppression.
right.
Okay, so we directed him, because he felt like that it fit between in a Homeland Security grant application. He's gonna look into that for you, Gail. And that there's Homeland Security money for fire suppression. I mean, why not? And he's been successful, knows the right people to deal with. When he got, kinda like, if it was more hopeful, he's gonna get a hold of you, and you guys can sit down
okay,
and pursue that. But we would certainly support any you know, he's your DES worker using, right?
Yeah,
So
absolutely.
we're really excited about, maybe at least that part of it.
Sure.
He was pretty positive. He said, you know, I think this fits.
Right, our biggest concern is some of the stuff coming out of the fire hydrants and the firemen are, you know, those guys have done, the district has done a great job of getting, equipment, and we certainly don't want that ruining their equipment.
Right, and so in that same vein, you know, I think if you are successful in that, take it a step further. They gotta get to the water tower.
Sure.
Maybe you could get him to help you with some road maintenance or construction.
I'll give Rick
You
a
know,
call.
he was really, get with Rick, and I thought that was kind of good.
Well, in fact, there's a LEPC meeting Thursday.
Yep, well,
I
good
believe.
time to talk to him.
Solid waste, so, this is pointed towards a commission. Can you please explain how the letters that people are getting, saying you're close to overages and, being over, can you please explain what's going on there?
Sure, so if you have a home, you get a unit of, in your taxes, okay? You pay $125. And, so if you have a business, and maybe your business is in your home, you're gonna get charged for 2 units, okay? Once in a while, there'll actually be a unit charged to a piece of ground with no residence. I don't know how that happens, but it happens. So what we do is correct that, certainly encourage all you to, if you think you're paying a unit of garbage on a, you know, something that's not a residence or a business, please come up and we'll take care of it for you if we can. And, so I think that's, now if you, everything's weighed, so if you have a unit and then you, go over that during the year, that's calculated and you're sent a bill for the overage over your unit, or so many tons. Okay, so, but all this is open, guys. I mean, you know, we're not, geez Louise, come and visit us. I mean, you know, if you feel like that, you know, I don't think I hauled that much, you know, we can go back in and look at the slips, and certainly if we can't prove to you, or you can prove to us that maybe, we overcharged us, you know, we're willing to negotiate every one of those bills, okay? So please, yeah, Scott.
Well, and then tell them about the new system too. That's why a lot of it got goofed up, because they changed over to a new system.
Yep.
And a lot of stuff got sent out and people are getting charged and they weren't supposed to. And quite a few people have come in.
So new.
It's a software system.
Software system.
Yeah, it was.
And it's not gonna be really up to date for 2 more weeks, because they had another glitch in it, or whatever they call it.
Yep.
So that's what.
So it connects the tonnage and the billing to the scale. It's pretty sophisticated, but anyway, we're gonna work out the glitch. But please, if you have any question about your garbage, come on up and we're gonna work with you.
I guess the only thing that concerns me is we haul our own garbage. Our neighbor gets their garbage picked up. And I know you guys, do a, I'm not sure how, you know, you can tally that out to say, there's never gonna be overages if Sorensen is, or, Robinson is picking up your garbage. How do you average that
Yeah.
out?
That's a really good question, because when I first came on the commission, I scratched my head about that one a little bit too. So, for me, he picks up my garbage, okay? So I get charged a unit, but my unit goes to him for that, okay? And if I haul in the extra tonnage, and I do sometimes, you know, I haven't been lately, but, you know, had, then, I go over the scales and that's gonna be charged back to me, okay? Cause I've already spent my unit, right, on him. We know how much total he takes in every single day, every, you know, pound of it. The problem is how do you break that down of all of these customers? See what I'm saying? I mean, some customers may really use him, and I just put a garbage can in once a week, or, so there's a little, And we're gonna have to work with him, and we're gonna have to figure out a way to do that.
So I
There
guess-
is a way to do
He
it,
said
and that's
that-
scales on the truck.
Right, I was gonna
But
say,
he's not that sophisticated. Go ahead.
Yeah, he said that he was gonna try to put scales on the truck, but it costs more for the scales than his trucks are worth.
well,
Exact
it,
words he said.
I guess it could be, but it's also the fair thing to do. I mean, with technology the way it is, I mean, can't he plug in every time he picks up people's garbages, you know?
We're not there
Plug that
yet,
in?
we're not there yet, I mean, we risk that if we put requirements on the guy that he can't meet, we're gonna lose our garbage pickup.
Somebody else will come in.
Well, okay, but what happens in the meantime, and can you guarantee that? I mean, we'll work with him, and as technology evolves, I agree, I mean, I just don't really wanna lose a business because government is making unfair demands. Does that make sense? And it's working out pretty good. As far as anybody, please tell your neighbors, hey, they're not, hard ass about it. If you think you got overcharged, come on and do it.
So how long ago was that system needing to be updated?
Well, they bought new scales well before I came, and then they used,
They redid the software a year ago.
yeah.
When Cindy was there, and now they went to a new system.
Well, cause I just remember going up with Veteran Logs when he was charged over $1,000. And obviously, he didn't have all of his tickets, to save, which that was bad on him. He should have saved all of his tickets, but you just kind of wonder if this software, I mean, and I know we can't go back. I just hope we go forward with
I
it.
think Mike, correct me, we got new hardware and tried to run the old system on it to save money, and that didn't work. So we got new hardware and the software that goes with it. And, I think it's clearing up. We're not getting that many complaints, but certainly if please don't pay, or go back if you want to, and come back and look at us and say, what's the deal, just like he did.
So who is it? Is it the gals in the treasurer's office? Who assesses the solid waste charges?
Yeah. Okay, so what we did so that folks could make sure they got good service is when we bought the software, we actually have that readout in the treasurer's office as well, okay, as of both sites, okay? So you don't have to go to a site and say, hey, what's going on? You can come up to the courthouse and we'll have it right there.
So like with a piece of property that my parents own, has no water, has no sewer, I didn't realize, because I didn't look at the breakdown of the taxes, it wasn't being charged solid waste, which there isn't anything. I just wondered how that, would I have been notified, or would my parents have been notified with that? How does that?
No, probably not. I mean,
Okay.
it would have been on our taxes. I'll give you an example. A guy from Maxville came in last week and said, hey, I got 2 units here, and I'm paying 2 other units that don't even have a house on them. I said, well, we'll fix that. Those are gone, okay? Because they're 2 pieces of property with no value, okay? Well, how come I'm paying 2 units? I said, no, I don't know. I said, you got a business? Well, yeah. I said, where is it? Right by my house. That's why you're paying 2 units. So, I mean, we'll just have those conversations with them and try to, work through it.
So there's not somebody.
There is, Lynn Anderson is dedicated in the county treasurer's office, and like, once again, if you go up and talk to Lynn and you're still not happy, come and visit with us, because we'll go right back and look at the data, okay?
And the treasurer's office does the budget?
For operations of the.
Yeah.
No, the budget is done by Paul Alt, and in cooperation with the commission. And, Lynn's side of it is just a collection of.
Okay.
Yeah,
How much does 1 unit equal? What is the weight for 1
it's
unit?
like, what is it, Scott?
2,000
2,000 ton.
Ton?
Okay. The other point for us, I guess, with solid waste is sometimes there's a horrific smell with the animal disposal.
Yeah, and
I honestly don't get that many calls, I don't know, do you guys get calls?
I've just got a few.
Okay.
Yeah,
I get quite a few.
Commissioner Adler's got some, he's been really good about getting hold of Paul and getting down. Here's what happened. As this process was put together, they estimated it would be so many carcasses, okay, and they built it just a little bigger. Well, it's expanded, we have a producer out here that buys old mama cows, 3,500 of them or something, wants to get a calf out of them, and, so the death rate is extremely high, you know, especially in a rough year like this year. And what happened is he overloaded, you know, his loads were so big that John, you know, he has to cover them and water them and smash them down. He just couldn't keep up with it. It was too many animals for the size of it. So we had the state come down and, you know, we've done a lot, you know, my apologies, it does smell, and it's not good.
We made another bin.
And we're gonna expand it. Paul's taking a look on how to do that. It's starting to take up a big portion of our space up there, which you can tell. But, you know, for the ag producers, I think it's excellent, and for public health, it's an excellent, way to just, you know, it's what we do. And we get a lot of dead cows during calving season. And, so, you don't have the predator issues, you don't have the birds hauling, you know, disease all over the county. It's just a really good program, and it's really popular with our ag partners in the county. So we're gonna try to manage it better, and, we'll just keep working with it. Scott, did you have?
No, that's pretty much it, just gotta keep the water to it, we got behind, and one day they had 100 and some dead animals, so.
And then I think we had a piece of equipment break down one day too, that I called that day, and they said, oh
And
man.
he was trying to smash it, he broke the
Yeah.
bucket off.
And then, so what, Paul went and got another piece of equipment and brought it down, but you know, in the meantime, you guys, it's stuck, sorry about that.
Surplus sale, where you at, where is the county at with that? I would like to see a surplus sale that the schools can put in their stuff, the towns, if they have anything, having one, you know, trying to get together, and have one. So do you guys keep an inventory, of stuff that no longer is
Well,
in
he's
use?
kind of in the process of doing that, although there, jump in here, Scott, we had a discussion with Paul Tuesday, and there's other ways that he can dispose of it where, you know, I think sometimes it benefits the county, so go ahead. Scott.
They were offering $100 to $110 a ton for scrap, and that or trade for cattle guards. And the other guy offered $3,500 for the old backhoe. Guy from Kalispell.
Yep.
That's pretty much where we're at. We only got, and then we got that pickup, but really I don't.
We could put
That's-
that, maybe if Gail had a sale, we could bring our stuff to her. We could put the pickup in.
We really don't have a lot to
For you
sell.
on that surplus.
What's that?
I got one question
Sure.
on the surplus. So, a while back, you guys had to buy a bunch of tires and rims and stuff, which is understandable usage. What happened to the old stuff? Why is that gonna be on surplus?
It could
Because
be.
there's a lot of people that would like to buy that.
Yeah, it could be, and then some of it is traded sometimes. He does
And
that.
then they went to summer and winter.
Okay, but where do the old rims go? I don't understand why you did rims.
There's a whole bunch up at Peaburg, and then there's some out here.
Are you gonna sell those? Because
No.
that, you're not.
No,
Why?
because they can use them as put on winter time or summertime, and they just, because they had some of them deep lug tires, and then they went with the Wayland.
So they're all at each office, so you got,
Yeah, we got a lot of stuff up there laying around. I mean, and some of it's frankly, yeah, Gail's right, I mean, some of it, you know, we'll sell
They
for
probably
scrap.
should sell some.
Yeah, you darn right. Some of it though, he will use, yeah. So,
Are there inventory lists of that stuff then?
yeah, he's trying to go through and he has a pretty good, machinery list that's running. He just doesn't, the old stuff, he's gonna make a list about what it's gonna
Do you-
what's it worth and what he's gonna do.
Do you know when that would be available?
Well, he's working on it every day, you know,
So like the end of the summer, or?
probably, I would guess, yeah.
So you are gonna sell that stuff? in
Some
the
of
near
that
future?
stuff, sure, I mean, you know, some of it's just scrap, nobody want it. He'll, you know, take that, or have somebody come and pick it up, I guess, is how it works, right? And
Well,
then
why
some
would
of
you
it-
put that on
some
surplus
of
if
it we
somebody
trade.
wanted to buy it?
Yeah.
I mean, instead of just give everybody a chance at it, instead of one person or two, well, however you do it.
Well, okay, so our experience though, I think, Scott, is that we'll have sales and a lot of it won't sell. So here we sit, we've got an expenditure, we've, you know, done the advertising, we, you know, have the whole thing done, and it just sits there. An example of that was that old dump truck that's sitting at home, for example.
The one we took.
I don't ever recall a surplus sale, that's what I'm
It was
asking.
before my time, but they did have.
But, so you should have inventory. I guess it should be documented what you did with every piece of county equipment that you ever got.
Yep.
Whether it went to scrap, whether.
Sure, if it made the scrap list, or if it went, yeah, it is.
So you have that documented, anything.
Well, we hadn't had a county road supervisor for a long, long time, and so what happened though, is that was one of his first challenges. But when we told him, what we first wanted to do is inventory his roads, then his equipment, and, you know, work through this, so that's where he's at now.
Okay, so guy, anybody that wants to buy that stuff can actually go up and you'll have a document at the courthouse right now. of what's
No,
what.
we're not gonna, you can't just go up and say, gee, I'd like to buy that, cause
I mean,
it's
stuff you
not
got rid
for
of.
sale. It's owned by the county.
Okay, so the stuff you already sold, like say, I don't know if you even sold anything in the last 8 years. But
No,
I'm just
we're
trying
not.
to get answers here.
Yeah.
Yeah, there's been a surplus sale in the last, in the last.
Every year.
But every piece of equipment, every object like that, it's documented where you sold that piece of equipment or
Sure.
where it went.
Sure.
Okay,
Yeah, they get a bill of sale.
Get a bill of sale, so we keep a
And
copy
the
of
title, if it's a vehicle.
I just wanted to,
Yeah,
because I'm checking on that.
well, okay, so for example, we had a county road person take batteries in just recently. And, so, to sell those batteries, I don't know, we got $800 or something like that, okay? And he brings that back, and that went to the county treasurer. That money does not go back in the road department, that goes to the general fund. So, that happens, stuff like that. Okay, yep.
Well, I was just wondering if I could just go in and see what was sold in the county. or
Sure.
Just throw it away.
Susie, you had something?
Oh, you mentioned cattle guards, do you have cattle guards for sale, or, because they would go out for bid, right? Have you ever had any cattle guards for sale?
Yeah, but by the time we're done with them, Sue, they're just junk.
So you haven't sold any cattle guards or given any cattle guards away?
I think we used some cattle guards on the ditch company, didn't we? Yes,
What's that?
They
They'll-
use that one on the ditch company.
yeah,
Oh, did you give it to the ditch company or sell it?
it gave it to them, yeah. And it was too small for anything we can use, sat there for I don't know how many years, and we needed it, so,
Where did it come from?
State,
yeah.
State surplus?
no.
No,
state
they give it,
JC.
when they pull stuff, sometimes they give it to us.
And
A lot of them
they're
have broken rungs on them.
just the one?
As far as I know, yeah. Go ahead.
You were talking about equipment and such, I don't know about rims, but, and Mike can maybe better answer this question. When is the last time there was an inventory done of the assets for the road department, Mike? I know when I was a commissioner, we did one, we went out and we checked all the serial numbers
Yeah,
and has that been done in a while?
well, I don't know, but it's marked on the asset card.
Yeah,
When
yeah, I
you
know
do that.
that there are asset cards
Right.
Well, we
that have
reviewed,
serial numbers, and so when something's sold, then you're pulling it out of there and.
Yeah,
right, you know, because we don't wanna pay insurance on it. So,
Right.
every year when we go through the insurance, okay, there's an asset catalog with every, not just the road department, but every asset the county has, including buildings, and everything. And we just recently, gosh, when was that, like 3 weeks ago? Met with our insurance company and we went through that and, you know, Scott's been here longer than I have, but he can say, no, you can pull that off, and, you know, what happened, and it moves over into another column, but it's there, okay? It just says it's off our insurance right now. So that's one way we track the assets, is we don't pay
Well,
insurance
there
unless.
is an asset file. I
Yeah,
mean,
well, and we
there
use
is
that
what
though
I
on
think.
the insurance, okay?
Yeah.
That's the same, it's not a different file, it's the same file, but it's just a copy of that, and we update it, does that make sense?
Mm-hmm.
Okay, just to pay, to track our insurance.
So, with selling equipment, I think, you know, I guess you have to look at value, but I think there has to be an assessment first before it is sold, is that correct?
It's, over 2,500, yeah.
But
So with the-
who gives the appraisal or the
Well,
assessment?
with like a vehicle, you could look at like a native blue book value, which would be acceptable, but
But like
for,
an old backhoe was mentioned, who sets the price on it?
so, yeah, if it wasn't a blue book value, you'd have to get someone who knows knows valuation.
Probably the
Uh.
safer thing to do is to just have a surplus sale, so everyone has opportunity at it, probably, huh?
Oh, surplus sales are good, and they, yeah.
Yeah, and the
they've
stuff that
been
doesn't
doing
sell,
it.
we'll, you know, disperse it another way, but.
It happens,
So when was the last one?
thank you.
When was the last one, Scott, you remember?
Last year.
A surplus sale,
Last year?
last year, yeah.
Was it publicized?
Yeah.
Can I ask a question on PILT
Absolutely.
monies? What Lane said, that towns cannot borrow from you for PILT monies, correct?
Correct, yeah.
But in the past, has the county ever taken a project and done it for a town because they recognize the need that it has to be done? I mean, we're required
Yeah.
to do capital improvement programs, growth policy. You come in with an example about Drummond with the water tower, which to me is just sitting here as a crucial element. We don't have the resources to get the grants, and we don't have the surplus funds that I hear you saying that you do. Can that ever be done, that you help out a town?
Oh, absolutely, you gotta remember who Rick Day is, he works for you as well, okay? We're all county citizens, we all pay county taxes. We just want you to use him, and what, those dollars are federal dollars, they're Homeland Security dollars that we were talking about, okay? They're not coming from the county, but an county employee writing a grant and helping you, heck, yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, but I'm still going back to PILT. If a situation ever came up, can the county say, we will do the water tower for you?
Apparently not.
Is that true? That is
So-
a fact?
So we were talking loan before, you're just saying, right, straight out, just
The county
donation?
doing it?
The county doing it?
Yeah. I mean, if the
I
dam
could look
breaks,
into
we're gonna have a
that.
big flood, I can understand that being a
Yeah.
priority, but.
Well, I mean, I'll give you an example, okay? Drummond lost their, unfortunately, their sander last year. It was slick and it was dangerous, okay? So we just had our county road guys, I mean, they're here anyway, right?
Right.
Just run on through and keep it running, right? And they're great, they're good employees, they know safety, they wanna make sure that, you know, so yeah, we do that. And I mean, an actual project, well, you know, I guess you'd have to.
Yeah, there's an interlocal agreement where the road crews help each other, but,
Mhm.
yeah. I
Could
can
you
do some
check on
looking
that for me, though?
Yeah.
And see if that is possible. Thank you.
Excuse me, do they still have the requirement that any county property that you're gonna dispose of, that you have to put it up for public bid?
So, we just talked about, there's a, it's not necessary for county business in less than $2,500.
$2,500?
Sell it with, or, yeah, yeah.
So that $2,500, is that, where'd that figure come from?
Statute.
Okay, and then, if I can just go back just a little bit, you said you don't take bids for anything under 80,000 on bid work of any sort.
Well, that's the statutory requirement, though some of the projects, they're less than that to bid out.
No, we bid out a lot of projects way less than that. Okay,
That's
so
what I'm wondering.
here's our thought there, okay? Yeah, we can go by the state law, but what we think is more important is there somebody in the county that could do, or maybe 2 or 3 people that could do this project? or this service, or then we're gonna bid it out. For example, we've got a couple road rebuilds, small projects, and we're gonna bid all those out, and they're all under 80, you know, but there are people here in the community that can do those. So we're gonna hope that, you know, they see it and have some work. I mean,
Well,
it's important.
that's exactly what I'm asking.
Yeah,
A lot of people
exactly.
that can do
No,
that.
and we do that. I mean, like, you know, yeah,
One
projects
of
that
the
we,
main ones who's coming up is gonna be Sue's. They're already Sue Peterson's, not trying to put you on the spot, but her,
That's okay,
that road there's gonna be one of the main ones I'm talking about, cutting it way down and laying a fabric in there, and then trying to put dirt, you know, not rock, about 18 inch, that big rock, is what they're kinda looking at, and then cover it up.
So that one will go out for bid?
yeah, yeah.
Cause they're gonna have scrapers, Gail.
We can't, it's actually something we can't do, and so we'll put it out.
So I might have misspoke, Susie, earlier, it's, yeah, over 2,500 has to go to, public sale.
I know, I just,
Yeah, I might have
I think it
misspoke.
has to, the thing is I think, isn't it, you have to have a value on it, and that's where I was coming from. Who puts that value on it? You know,
I hear you,
that's the tough one.
use backhoe, it's.
That's the tough one.
So with that too, I guess, can I ask the commissioners, what do you, I'm assuming those millings you got down here, down at Linda's Pond, those are the counties. Are those, have you guys already earmarked those for a certain place? Can we get some from you?
I think we got we got one brand new pile of millings, don't we, just coming off now, is that what you're talking about, Gail?
That had just come off the
Yeah.
highway?
Yeah, just now, and I think those
We're
are,
gonna finish up Knoxville.
Yeah, get that together. I don't know what's gonna be left or how much we're gonna get.
Well, I mean, and I'll come up and, we just have a road at the end of town here that needs some, yeah, it's not,
Maybe
it's not gonna be out, but,
five dump truckloads altogether.
well, I'll get put on the
Sure,
agenda
come on up and see.
and do it that
You
way.
know, you bet.
Okay, Mr. Dan,
Okay, in Philipsburg, we're underway with our infrastructure projects. We're working on a couple of water mains. The sewer mains are coming also. We've got a group of engineers coming in on the 21st of the month with the DEQ to do some assessments on our lagoons. So that project is moving forward. It's going to be a real busy summer in terms of infrastructure. It's pretty nonstop. That's pretty much business as usual. I'd like to reference the library district, which of course I'm sure everyone is aware that there's been a library district formed, and so we're in the process of dealing with that right now with an interlocal library agreement between the library district and the town of Philipsburg. And our attorney and the county's attorney have been in communication back and forth on that. There may be some questions that council members have, I don't know, in terms of the process and where we're at, and perhaps when the thing will come to fruition and be essentially handed over and the district will become activated. I'd like to know what the timeline is on that. Is that connected to the specific fiscal year?
So, to me, it's dependent upon getting the documentation done, so I don't know what Robert's thought on that, but I think getting the documentation.
Sure, and I think we're fairly close on that. I think the question is really, when are they funded? Do they get their money in
So I think
January of 2019?
I think it's 2019, but I believe it'd be July, but I need to double check that.
Do you drink your water?
Yeah.
That was one
Okay.
that was expressed by
That's
the
over.
first library board.
In July of 2019, they would receive the full.
Yeah, I need to double check that date. Yeah, it's 2019.
So right at the beginning of the fiscal year, so we would only budget through this fiscal year, really, if that's true.
Yeah, it may be best just to start it when the money comes in, but I guess that's something we could
Well,
discuss.
I think we spend so much time on our budget, and the library is a considerable portion of it, that it's good if we can all be on the same page and say, okay, here's the date when you'll receive this money, and the town will no longer be responsible for keeping the library operating.
Sue, do you remember when that was? Were you on the,
Right, I believe we passed, the levy passed in February, and I think that following July, we became a district, and then perhaps the next November, we started to collect for it, I think.
Because my understanding was July would be just portion of the monies because of the way
You would
property
get your
taxes
taxes
come
I'll
in.
double check that.
It's
and we'll-
starting of the fiscal
Right,
July.
right, so we
But
got.
you don't get the money until, I believe that.
Right, we started getting, past the levy in February, we started
Okay.
receiving money the following November.
November?
Okay.
That's the way ours was
Okay.
set up.
Because it
It's
goes by
just
the
a
fiscal.
portion of that year's property taxes,
Half
it's
of
not
it.
full.
Right, okay. So we'll get clarification on that, and then you folks will get together and we'll do some finalizing on the interlocal agreement between the district and the town. Obviously, the library will still be housed at the town hall, and so there's a component, that we have to discuss in terms of that long-term, situation there. So that's about what I have on the library currently. I just wanted to make sure that we at least talked about it tonight a little bit, if there's any other questions or considerations, concerns anybody has.
any other question?
When is there gonna be the election for the trustees?
Like, they can be appointed or elections, so, right now, I think, well, right from the start, everyone talked about it being appointments, so I guess that's, will have to be a decision that's made.
Who's gonna appoint them?
I believe the current draft, which is not finalized, has the county appointing two, the town appointing two, and then those four members appointing a fifth.
Okay. I also had the status of law enforcement contract down here for just a brief discussion. I just noticed the other day that you folks had it on your agenda. There was a reference to law enforcement, and I was wondering what that was on your
That
agenda.
was, to start, or the contract, or excuse me, the, budget with the sheriff,
Right,
his annual budget.
okay.
Your, comes due in 2019, we can have a discussion. You're a new mayor, I know what it's like, so if you have questions about the contract, come on up and talk to us about it.
Oh, yeah,
We'd
absolutely.
be happy to, and certainly we'll invite the sheriff. I think it's good for you to have a real intimate knowledge of what our requirements are and how we accomplish those.
Well, I appreciate that because that is really my intention. It's a pretty good chunk of money for us, and so I feel obligated to plug into it and
Yep.
get into it in real time. So I'll be definitely plugging in as the budget process goes. Do you have a number generally from the recent past, what your law enforcement budget is annually?
Well, we made so many improvements, what, Scott? I don't know right now. We could sure provide that too.
Okay, well, that would, obviously, I would like to have that
So,
first things first.
so remember, and this is why it's important for Andy to come up, the county commissioners, have worked with the sheriff to set his budget, but he's an elected official, he doesn't work for us.
Right.
Okay?
Yeah, I
He's
understand.
his own guy.
Great.
But I think, what we have is a great opportunity though, for you to come up and get familiar with it and working with him too, okay?
Do you remember what you guys paid down?
Right now, I believe we're about 79,000.
Okay. And just FYI, Drummond's 42.
Right.
So have you looked at our contract too?
No, I
I know.
haven't. I just recently pulled ours out, so I was aware of the termination time on it. But I certainly would like to look at yours.
Sure.
So I'll be querying about that.
And having been on both sides of it, having our own law enforcement and then going to contracted services, I will guarantee you, if there's any question in any of your minds about trying to do your own law enforcement, get it out of there, cause there's, one person, even two people, with everything going on, how much, ask Deer Lodge, I guess, I would say, talk to Deer Lodge about it, it'll kill you.
I will tell you, I spent not long, maybe an hour, doing some preliminary investigations about it, and I just closed the book on it.
Yeah.
So I realized what's going on there in the real world. It seems, it's worth checking out, but right away I found out that, this probably is not gonna pencil out. But I am curious, I feel obligated to at least check it out.
Absolutely,
You know,
it's a
and
huge,
so,
it's a
yeah.
huge part of our budget too, but,
Right.
and I will say, from the sheriff's side of it, the coverage that we have in our agreement, we get much more than that, and I do believe that Philipsburg gets much more than that too.
Is there a stipulation of hours per week?
For us, there is, in our contract.
And what is that, do you know?
It's,
Yeah.
it's not very much a week, but, geez, I wonder,
Ours is 30.
yeah, I think it might be 20 hours.
Yeah, and ours is 30,
Yeah,
so.
and I mean, with having HPs, we have 2 HPs here too,
Right,
and they work very
yeah, that's a
well.
different
But
set.
it is,
Yeah, it's a different set
it
of
totally
services
isn't with
the
being on
highway.
I-90 and whatnot,
And I will say for the record, our sheriff is very accessible. He's been very helpful to me. He's reached out to me in the recent past, so. And on that note, I would ask, is the sheriff also the coroner?
Yes.
That's true too.
Other
So-
deputies are coroners.
Assistant or deputy coroners.
Okay, and they go to school and
Oh,
get
absolutely.
everything and do
Yeah,
that.
once a year, they have to upgrade their certificates, all of them,
Right,
so.
okay. Is there, so that's sort of a dual role for them. Are there any other county employees that act in a dual role, that have 2 responsibilities like that?
Oh, yeah, Supervisor Alt has, the county road department and, solid waste. Lynn, who we were just talking about on solid waste, works a split job with the county treasurer. Is, Becky Smith's told, she's like maybe got 3, responsibilities in the county part-time. So, yeah, there's several.
The school, with respect to the school, the current superintendent is whom?
Drummond
Of
or
Philipsburg,
Philipsburg?
right.
Mike Cutler?
He's the superintendent, okay. And then is there a position above the superintendent that oversees the county?
Well,
With regard to
there's a
the-
county superintendent of schools.
Okay.
Is Vicki Harding, but she has limited control over.
So that would be an example,
Yeah,
again,
so
also.
each has a
some-
school board that has.
So that would be another dual role, Vicki.
Yeah,
since
she's the
the
treasurer
right.
and the.
So, to be clear, the school is a separate entity of government, okay, we don't supervise their budget or them?
Right, oh, I was aware of that.
Okay, okay.
Yeah, okay.
Can I ask one quick question, since we're gonna go into negotiations in 2019? In the current contract, the town shall pay the sum of $76,549.04. That was in 2015, which amount represents an increase of 2% over the fees paid by the town in 2014-15. The amount of the fee and of the quarterly payments described in paragraph 7.2 shall increase by 2% as an established cost of living increase in each of the remaining fiscal years of the agreement. Does that supersede the compensation board? The compensation board said county employees, including the sheriff, 2.5% increase COLA. Does that then you add for this contract, now it's 4%?
No, that just funds it. That just funds it, okay, so we
Fund-
have the compensation board, that's the final say, okay? And if we agree to go above what we're collecting from the city, okay, the county has, we have to pay the difference.
So, yeah, that's just that's a set percentage. I need to read that language again, but yeah.
Yeah, cost of
There's
living
nothing
is-
that goes above that. That language
No,
is
that's what you pay.
Is the final say.
It's, we pay it, it's, every year we're gonna have a cost of living
Right.
increase, so I'm asking you, in addition to what the compensation board, who gets this cost of living? Your deputies, the sheriff? So are they getting more than a regular county employee?
No, okay, so we go with what the board tells us, maybe it's 2.5.
Correct.
And we're only collecting 2 from you, we make up the difference. Does that make sense? We're collecting 2 from the city on the contract, and the contract's running, and maybe we give them 2.5, we pay the difference, you don't.
1 year could be lower than that, one
Could be
year, it's
lower.
basically just a,
Yeah.
looking
Yeah,
at
but
a.
if it is lower, then what?
Yeah.
You're gonna get 2% from the town of Philipsburg.
Yeah.
I don't know what
Right.
Drummond says
Right.
you're gonna get,
Yep.
you know, a certain amount.
Ours is the same.
So I just, you know, in the future negotiations, if we could look at that cost of living, because cost of living to me is like everybody else sitting here, you get it, you know, as a worker, if it's awarded. You know, the feds, the
Yeah,
state.
that could be-
So
that
if
could
we
be
could
brought
look
up
into
in-
that. Thank you.
Yeah, Elena?
To go back to the contract, does Drummond and Philipsburg still pay extra to the JP for her court to handle fines?
We do, yes.
But there
Yes.
aren't any as far as ordinances because the sheriff doesn't fine town ordinances, is that correct?
Yeah, he does.
Only, that's interesting, because he's under the county and the state. And as far as town ordinances, like if you pass a ordinance that you can't water after 7 o'clock, he's not gonna give you somebody a fine for that.
Yeah,
He
he will.
could-
He will?
He could
He'll
cite
give him a
him. Yeah, he
citation,
could cite
yeah.
him.
Yeah. Yeah.
That's kinda interesting.
Yeah, they have to enforce our ordinances, yeah.
The town has to have a town court to enforce their ordinance.
Not a town under 1,000 people.
Yeah, we
There's
do.
classifications.
Because trust me,
No,
we
we
didn't
did.
for
We did.
7 years,
This-
because
the
I
statute
bucked
says
them
town.
and we,
Yeah. I'm sure the statute.
they
A
did
town or a
say we will.
city
It says
third
town,
class,
yeah, town.
or a city third class. I already talked to Bullock about this.
I can show you the statute.
Oh, yeah,
So
trust
can
me. Mhm.
So then you have a list of how much was collected. So if I went to where to get such a list?
Judge Baratsky is at,
Judge
she's
Fratz, oh, she would have the list of how much
right,
was collected.
she's at town hall at.
Oh, yeah, I know that, because the previous town judge, she didn't have any collections when she was the town judge, so that's interesting. Yeah, I'll have to check on that, thank you.
Anything else, Dan?
That's about it for me right now.
Okay. Any other public comment?
I'm just glad that we're having a joint session. I think this is really important for these three entities to get together more often. And I know we're looking at our growth policy and capital improvement plan, and this will be really helpful, I think, moving forward, that we can all work together on those things.
I'm really happy to see the town of Philipsburg here.
Thank
I
you for
have-
inviting us.
I've got two more public comments. Gail, you mentioned LEPC,
LEPC,
and they're gonna meet Thursday?
I believe it's this
Yes,
Thursday.
the 28th.
28.
Oh,
The
the 28th.
28th.
Okay, so
At
I
the hall
lied.
school.
And they always do it quarterly at the hall school.
Okay, that's what I was wondering, but
There's
the,
good, very good information.
the other thing that, this meeting came up real quick.
I went up and asked, we hadn't had one for a long time.
Mm-hmm.
And so I went up and asked the commissioners if we could get back to it, having them, because I think they're very productive. I know it sounds funny, even, it sounded a little funny, I'm not trying to diss on you there, Mr. Dan, but Dan asking, you know, the superintendent, who that is and whatnot. People think because we are in these public offices that we know everything and everybody. I go up to Peaburg and people talk to me like I am their grandma or whatever it is, maybe, and I have no idea who they are. And because we're in the paper, you know, our names are or whatever, people think that, you know, they know us. And so with that, I totally get it, Dan. I mean, in Drummond, I mean, that's why I try to stay close to the school. I would really like the school to start coming to it, Philipsburg School to start coming to it, because I think, when we had that previously, that is how we got the SRO officer.
Well,
going.
well, my point being is I think maybe you just may have had more people here if people knew about it.
Yeah.
There was no agenda until, what, Thursday? It was put up online. And this meeting is not a regularly scheduled meeting, and it's held at a different place. So there should have been something published in the newspaper. Since it's a different day, a different place, it's not this regular session that the commissioners always have, so there should have been something put in the newspaper. And it's not you, I'm talking the commissioners.
It's a joint session, so we put ours up. We had to post it because I have a quorum here.
Posting is not the same thing as what I'm talking about, putting it in the newspaper. Every 3 months, I understand you have this joint session. Well, when was the last time you had one? There was one scheduled for December, I believe, and it was canceled. So now I believe this is more than 3 months. So there should have been something, again, because this is the people's business. You want to have people here, and we don't have them.
Fast, and we'll get it in the paper, if that's where you'd like it, is in the paper. I mean, I tend to think that people, put it on Facebook, we put it on our website. I don't know about Philipsburg, if you did, I'm not sure. I think you guys had it on your website, but.
But also, when you had the discussion, that should have been put on the agenda for a discussion with.
That was not the commissioner's fault. That was because of my schedule.
No, it was the
I could
commissioner's
not-
fault. The commissioners should have listened to you and then said, we'll put it on the agenda and we'll have a discussion. That's the way it should have been held, not during public comment. No, I'm sorry.
And that was on me, Elena. That was because of my.
That's fine, you can do that, but then they should have said, we're putting it on the agenda. They're not supposed to make any decisions during public comment. That's what I'm saying, okay? That's it. I'm not blaming you. I'm saying the way it should have been handled is that it should have been a decision that was put on the agenda by the commissioners.
We'll make it right now so that we'll get it in the paper. The next joint session should be in September. And I would assume, because we move around the county, is either up
Georgetown Lake, I think.
to Georgetown is what is
We did,
how we
we did
previously
Rockford
did.
one time too, I don't know what
That was
interest.
that was in the winter. That's the
Yeah,
one that got.
That's when they got
canceled.
canceled, was
Yeah.
Rockford.
Yeah.
And so will the county,
We had one before that at Rockford.
and will the county commissioners also have it put in the newspaper? Okay.
Well, I mean,
we got one.
just
one.
one.
We only got
It
one.
makes it makes sense.
I
just
know
to
the
do-
commissioner should publish it, because that,
Cause we don't have any damn
yeah,
money to
because
put
we
it
don't
in
have
the
any
paper.
money to pay the paper.
That's basically what I'm saying,
Yeah.
should be the commissioners.
Yeah.
So I would think September would be the next one.
That would-
And up at, we do it at the fire station up at Georgetown Lake. They have a very nice facility that they let us use, and,
What day?
I don't know, I don't have my phone. It's over there if you wanna look at,
Unless we have fires.
right, which could be.
Second Wednesday or what?
I think we were having the first Wednesday, but it just worked out this way for whatever reason.
That would be the 5th.
Is that all right with people?
Where are you having it?
Georgetown.
Georgetown,
Georgetown Lake at the fire hall.
at the
At the
fire.
fire hall,
Mhm.
okay.
So the 5th, yes,
Works for me.
okay, and at 6:30. And Mike, you'll put that in, yeah, the paper,
Yeah.
thank you. And we'll try to get our agenda items in to Mike as early as possible.
Absolutely. So the
Yeah, so it could be in the paper,
Right.
probably 10th, but.
Yeah, I would say at least 2 weeks previous, yeah,
Thank you.
6:30, yeah.
yeah.
Well, thank you for arranging this.
Yeah, I think that they, they do well. There's a lot of stuff, being on the planning board too, I probably should have brought up some of that stuff, but, you know, I would hope, and I know everybody's meetinged out, but there's some subdivisions, you know, going up in Philipsburg that, you know, I mean, I guess just people take interest in it. And I know it's hard, you can't make people come to meetings, but that's a pretty big subdivision, you know, and so.
So Gail, I'd like to, as the new chairman on the commission, I think it's important for you to know, that we stick to the agenda as very best we can, all the time we can. But there's usually spaces between agenda items. So if you have county questions, or, you know, maybe you wanna put something on the agenda, or sometimes a lot of folks don't really know how county government works. And, you know, we'll, certainly talk to you. It's not, nobody's gonna say we can't talk to you, we're gonna talk to you, we work for you. At the point though, it becomes, you know, important enough, significant public interest, we're gonna say, hey, you know what, we gotta put this on the agenda, okay? So don't feel bad about that. When can you come back? Yes, you'll have input on when you can come back. We meet on Tuesday, sometimes you can't make the next Tuesday, but this is your issue, it's important, so we'll set it up so you can. The other way you can get on the agenda is just simply call Mike, or one of the county commissioners, and we'll call Mike. But I don't want you to know, I want you to think that, you know, we'll be that rigid, but there's certain things we have to be rigid on. Now, there's a public comment period. A lot of times, people come in with issue A, which morphs over to issue B, and that's when we say, you know what, let's put that on the agenda. There's other people who need to comment, you know, okay? So, it's important for us, though, if you see something on the agenda that, when we're maybe even making a decision on it, okay, there'll be a motion, there'll be a second. I'll ask for discussion from the board, the three of us. Then I'll ask for public comment, okay, so you'll get a chance to make a decision, or to put your public comment before we make a decision, okay? I don't think that's done regularly, but that's the way it is now, okay? And I wanna make sure, I mean, we can't go on for hours, but by golly, we wanna make sure we hear from you before there's a vote. Because the last thing I wanna do is think we know what we're doing, have a consensus building in the commission, and then we get new information, or different information, all right? So you have an opportunity then, and at the end of the meeting, usually Mike puts it on around 2 o'clock for public comment. Does everybody understand? Any questions? I hope that works for you. Yeah.
I have public comment regarding two things. One, to your surplus stuff, and another one to the good neighbor policy. So what's your guys' status on the water truck for the Kiwanis Rodeo?
We haven't been asked yet. Yeah, we haven't been asked yet.
Okay, I wanna know, like Larry Martell, how come the water truck wasn't available to the nonprofit organization there?
One thing, we couldn't get nobody to run it.
Yeah.
Okay, but we never had problems with that in the past.
Because we had an accounting employee that was good enough to go run it. You. And you know, we could work that out. I mean, what he's talking about, the good neighbor policy, I hope people have looked at it. It's an opportunity for us to try to make available to you services and equipment as, you know, as we all try to get together in a small community.
So is that a no that the Kiwanis can?
No, it's not a no. We'll have to get the date and see if somebody's available to run it.
So
Paul
is,
asked you
the
that.
person you have
Paul
to
asked
forward.
you that at a meeting I was at.
No, it was the mud bogs, it wasn't the rodeo. And certainly, I think we'd have done it if we'd had a county employee that were running down and did it.
so who, can you tell me who the county employees are that are,
Any of the road guys.
so just the road guys?
CDLs and, yeah.
So like,
You know,
John at the dump camp?
No, there's not a CDL.
Okay.
One thing the good neighbor policy says though is if it cannot be contracted with a private entity. So I'm not saying that's an issue here, but that's what the good neighbor policy states.
It states what?
So,
It's, you gotta be able to, if you're in a bind and there's no private entity that could do that, cause
Oh.
the county's not trying to take away money from a private business.
But it's a non-profit organization, so like the Tri-County Fair, the county has a water truck there over at Deer Lodge, and those guys don't work for the county that run it.
well, that's a decision we made to protect the county and,
We'll make them, when we're talking about our insurance.
in our insurance. But Kyle, if you come to us and say, okay, we're gonna have the rodeo, I've checked around, there's nobody else has a water truck, give us a little time, we'll try to get a county employee to get it down there too. It's not that we're saying no for good, we just had to own the mud bogs.
Okay, let's just say you say nobody wants to come and run it because you're gonna have to pay them overtime because they've already worked there 40 hours. You're gonna have to pay them
They
overtime.
can-
You guys are already gonna say no.
No,
So back to,
no,
just
they
listen to
can-
what I got to say. Then I'm gonna go to the county surplus stuff. There was a water tank at the county. There was an aluminum water tank. It was given away. It wasn't put out for bid. We all know that. We all know where it's at. So if you were gonna give it away, why didn't you give it to the Kiwanis or the American Legion? So it was down there, so anybody, when Sue Peterson or myself or anybody that borrows the rodeo grounds and has a has a event there, they would be able to use it.
Well, Scott, you can speak to what the.
That was that aluminum tank,
Yeah.
yeah, we shouldn't have done it.
So take it back.
So where'd it go?
Do you have a bill of sale for it?
Who'd you give it to?
It was
We
off
never
of the
sold
truck
it.
before.
Okay.
We never got nothing for it.
No, you just gave it away.
Who'd you give it to? Who'd you give it to?
Bob Weaver.
Bob Weaver?
Back.
So
Well,
Kyle,
I'm
to
just-
answer your
I'm just
question,
trying to
we're not-
I'm just trying to
But
solve
the
the
good
problem.
I understand, and the good neighbor policy is still in effect. One of the county employees could give us the time or give you the time. That's normally what happens. They didn't charge the county for running the truck down there, okay? But they're licensed to do it, they know the equipment, and that's what we're asking, that's all we're asking. And I'm sure they'll do it again, it's not like we're stopping it. That's just fine. We had one event where we weren't able to supply a water truck. Not a big deal. And certainly, let's figure out the rodeo and we'll get somebody lined up to get you the water truck from the county. But it'll be a county employee, okay?
Well, how come you didn't figure out something with Larry?
We asked all the guys and not.
Nobody
nobody
wanted to do it.
So we better just plan on having one then, because, I mean, with when we have to do the watering and stuff, we'll just figure on that, Kyle.
Okay.
And, they get that tank back, I guess we can.
Buy the truck.
So I got one question going with that. That's kind of what I'm getting at. So giving that truck away now, the bill said.
No, it's a tank.
Tank.
It's a tank.
The tanker, the tank. That's filed that you gave it away?
It's just junk, yeah. Yeah, I mean, it's broken. I'm not sure you're able to fix it. From what I could tell, they rolled it off of a truck and the bottom was busted out, wasn't it?
Using all that grass.
Yeah.
You shouldn't have ever gave it away, though.
Why is it you don't publish all of your agendas in the newspaper?
'Cause they
Lane,
don't
I'll let
have
you
to.
handle that one.
Not legally required to. We do post the website and so the agenda's on there. Not sufficient time to be able to get it in.
Says 7/1/21/21 requires you to publish your agendas, and so how do people even know what you're doing? You say that it's available on the website, but that law says that if there is no weekly newspaper, that you can do that. So.
Well, there's two other attorneys here, they can give their opinions too, but my opinion is, and the Attorney General's is they'll answer.
Has the Attorney General ever gotten back to you on that? It's already been 7 months you were
I,
checking into that, and I still haven't got an answer on it.
I told you, Dick, that he wasn't gonna respond to me, and I'm not gonna ask him again, that's a legal
I
thing.
gotta say for Drummond, I am not in favor of that, cause we don't have the money to publish that, because, when we publish things in the legal, that's, you know, I mean, we literally would have to raise taxes if we were going to do that every month.
On the note about the ad in the newspaper, about the agenda, there should be something also there saying that if you'd like it mailed to you, to contact Mike Cahill and telephone number, so, because there's a lot of people, like I said, in this county that don't have a computer, and they would like it by the mail, so I suggest you put that on the ad also.
How many people go into your website to see what the agenda is?
Who knows? That's enough. Done.
I'm gonna ask for an adjournment, a motion to adjourn.
Make a motion to adjourn.
Okay.
I have one more
Second.
question,
Sure.
comment. Sometimes our informality works against us in this sense, and I may seem a little bit behind the curve here, but I've heard Larry, and I've heard Bill, and I've heard Paul, and alls I can discern is that Paul must work for the county,
Paul is the county road supervisor.
which
and
is a
he's-
pretty important position.
And he is the solid waste
Okay,
supervisor.
and that's, when I hear Paul,
Yep, sorry.
that's fine, I'm just pointing it out, that on occasion, not everyone knows who the first, is on a first name basis.
Good point.
That's all I wanna say, and so I wanna say, I wanna know the distinction between a citizen and a public employee or an elected
Sure.
official, that's all, that's it. That's it.
Yeah,
So-
and actually, hopefully at the next meeting that we have the road supervisor there, Mark used to come, I thought it was a good thing. There's a lot of road questions,
Absolutely.
always, so,
So I yield the floor.
yeah, all right. So it was first, you made the motion,
I said.
second, any other discussion? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Adjourned.
If everybody
This
else
is the
signs
people.
the sign-in sheet, would you please do that?
Big meeting, big meeting.
No,